Alright, guys, this is a re recording of the What's News topic that I was working on this week, and because of the redesign, it's pretty much going to be shortened a little bit. And the reason I'm actually redoing this particular episode or video, if you want to call it, is because when I was doing the other What's News, the George Zimmerman situation was just going to the jury. I did not realize it was going to actually do the verdict on a Saturday, which I got to remind myself that sometimes they do hearings on Saturdays. But in any case, I didn't expect them to do it on the weekend. I actually expected to see something Monday, no later than Tuesday, and by then I can actually give a standalone video on the verdict. But unfortunately, that it wasn't the case. By the time I recorded the video, um, uh, the verdict was already handed down, and that pretty much forced my hand to start fresh and new, and make this topic, the verdict of George Zimmerman, which, by the way, he was found guilty of all charges, to be the centerfold of the story, while also bringing up some topics of other stories that I have been keeping an eye on. Um, I might as well just get down to the point here. I did an update, which, by the way, this is a pre-recording, but I did an update on my time, which was like only 20 minutes ago, explaining the situation and why. At the same time, I was just gathering my thoughts. I am disappointed at the verdict, but I'm not enraged because, like I said in previous videos, this could have gone either way. It is very, very cut and dry, and this all depends on what the prosecutor and the defendant says to the jury that will either determine Zimmerman's guilt or innocent. Am I mad at the prosecutor for not getting the verdict? No, I'm not mad at the prosecutor. I'm well aware that he was working on pretty much hearsay and on witnesses that may or may not have a clear view of what's happened on the night of Trayvon Martin's death. We also got to keep in mind that the recordings of the 911, as well as the screams, which to this day, and probably down the road, we may never know who was doing the screaming at that time. Um, should he have been convicted of something? I think he should have. I have made it very clear that he pretty much set everything in motion. His attitude when he was on the phone with the 911 call made it very clear that he felt that he wants the law, in my opinion, and because of what he have done, and because of him not even obeying the 911 call saying don't follow him, led to eventually a confrontation with Trayvon Martin, which eventually got Trayvon Martin killed. Um, but in all the situation I've heard about this and all the stuff I really grab hold of is the fact that as I was doing that video, last video, I mentioned something which I'm actually kind of happy that it didn't turn to a bloodfest because there was reports that police was preparing for the verdict, and it really drew my attention to what the hell they were preparing for, which pretty much mean if he was found innocent, there may be a riot. Even if he was found guilty, there may be some big hospitality because it was boiling point from both sides who believe he was innocent and believed and those who believe he was guilty, and it really brought um, pretty much some strong racial tension here, uh, pretty much on the web as well as the town by itself. Um, my phone was ringing. I'm not going to take any calls right now. This is to me, my personal feeling. I'm turning this off. This is too important of a video, and I'm not starting it over. So I do apologize for that, guys. But in any case, um, when I heard that, it really concerns me because the last thing I didn't want to see is the fact that that a riot may happen. I didn't want that to come to that. I did not want the people to destroy their own neighborhoods, end up hurting others who had nothing to do with the situation. And although there are people who are angry and rightfully so in many cases, they handle it pretty much in a much better way than destroying their neighborhoods in the streets. I know that there's a lot of people who was looking for the opportunity, but overall, how they protesting, how they went about to, I'm kind of happy that that's not escalated to anything further than what I've actually have seen in the past. With that being said, I know a lot of people ask me, who do I cast the blame on? I'm not casting the blame on the prosecutor. Not angry at the jury, even though I kind of felt that they should have gave him something. Whether it be probation or jail time of a lesser charge. But I'm not angry with them. I know that they had to go by what evidence they had. My anger, and this is something that I felt from the very beginning, goes on the Florida Police Department. Period. To me, they have seriously have done a terrible job in handling this case. And it's basically simple as day. They took the man at his word, didn't bother doing an investigation, just dropped it as that. Basically put the deceased in the cold freezer without contacting anyone, even though his phone was present, even though his ID was present. They basically cast him out. And I'm just going to go on and say, if anybody want to say that Trayvon Martin is a racist and that's why he did it, I'm not buying into that situation. I just think he was paranoid. He thought he was a cop. He thought he was doing justice to the streets, which to me he did more of a damage than what anybody could ever imagine. To me, the racism falls on the police department because I am always curious if this was done by a Caucasian person. If this was a Caucasian person that got killed, would they have done the investigation? Would they have, done the alcohol breathalyzer? And to me, I think they would have. But because this was a black child, this was a black teenager, they just basically threw it off as, okay, he said stand your ground, and that's it. We're gonna go by that. And the proof was in the pudding when the minute they actually gave the reasons why they did not do the continued investigation. Oh, he's a great Zimmerman is a good outstanding citizen. He has a good record with the community. We felt that he was justified in defending himself, and also we have a standing ground law that that pretty much said that he was right, even though they never really done any investigation, didn't even take it to the courts or anything. They just dropped it like that and leave it like that. And then all of a sudden we have all this other stuff saying that he has had a habit of calling 911 about making false claims before, including a complaint with his ex-girlfriend. That's when that's when things really start to heat up because they realize that they did not even bother to investigate. That's the whole key. And to me, crucial evidence that may have have led to a conviction was gone, all because this police department felt there was no need to investigate. And to me, that's the true crime right there. That these cops just basically ignored everything, especially protocol on how to go by investigating proceeding. To me, it was a lazy, and to me, it really questions who they really protecting. Are they protecting everyone, or are they protecting a certain select few? So there's my true anger coming out right there. There's my true anger when it comes to this situation. Not anything else. It's pretty much focused on that. And the lawmakers who, let's be honest, have a law who I believe is biased. And I said this repeatedly. You're telling me that Trayvon Martin is justified for killing a kid, but a woman who had a history of, tackling this domestic violence from a guy who confessed of, abusing her, she gets 22 years for pretty much doing what you expect the stand your ground laws do. Only she didn't kill nobody. She shot, a warning shot. She gets 22 years over some, political, judicial BS. But this guy, he kills a person. Stand your ground works fine for him, and now because of all this, he's free. So to me, I'm not feeling the politicians in that state, and hopefully this, along with a lot of other stuff that I was going to talk about, that I actually made my #1 topic on the video that I actually had to cancel. uh, pretty much will be the last straw, and people will see these politicians for the clowns they really are and get them out of office. I don't care who replaced them; they need to go because to me they are just as guilty as passing laws without thinking things through, without actually asking themselves, are these laws going to help the state or hurt the state's image down the road? Um, I have heard a lot of news on Florida, a lot of crazy news on Florida. I don't really tackle those news because, frankly, one, those are not news that's going to affect not only that state but other stuff that goes on, and two, there's other people who actually follows that. I don't look at the Florida citizens in a bad light. With that being said, I gotta question the politicians. I gotta question the lawmakers, and I gotta question just how much racial tension there is in that state right now. Because we gotta believe, we gotta believe that the minorities in that state, black, Hispanics, are not feeling the politicians or the lawmakers, and with good reason. Um, this was a total this verdict, which again I'm not surprised because I pretty much embraced myself for whatever happens here. Even though a lot of people was angry that I said it could have gone 50-50, I'm not blind and to by saying that he's guilty automatically. I've seen too many cases where people think it was an open shut case, but then again, the person was found innocent or guilty for the wrong reasons or for the right reasons. It really all depends on what the both sides bring to the table. And to me, the way I was following it, the way I was seeing it, it could have gone either way. It really could have gone either way. But with that being said, again, my anger clearly falls on the Florida police. To me, they are the true culprit here in terms of how this happened. Because to me, if they have done their job, we would probably never have seen this in the news. We would have probably seen it in some local news, something that happened, but they didn't do their job, and that sparked it even more anger and more media attention than what I think even Florida officials actually was hoping for. It brought questions towards laws that was being passed in terms of stand your ground, and just to be very clear, I'm not gonna blast stand your ground because there are some states who handle stand your ground laws with some common sense. Texas, surprisingly, is one of them. They actually handled that with common sense. There was an incident that happened in Texas. The guy tried to use stand your ground law. He even tried to record the situation at hand, but he was at fault because he instigated the situation. He went to the house, and as a result, he put himself in a situation where he was forced to use his gun. Well, guess what? He's serving a life-term sentence because he killed a person at his daughter's birthday party. I actually covered that a while back, and Texas made it very clear: you're not supposed to be the person instigating an incident. You're not supposed to be the person to go into somebody else's territory and then stir trouble and then not expect a reaction to happen. And that's the thing that I actually have to bring up because there are other states who does have this, but other states are smart enough to actually make sure they word it carefully so that every citizen understands that this is not something to be abused. Florida, who of late I've been seeing, and I'm seeing it a lot more, especially since they banned all computers in their state by accident, which is totally ridiculous. And yeah, I'm going to be talking about that in a few minutes because that's something that was my major topic, and I will be talking about in a few minutes. They worded that law poorly. They simply made it pretty much possible now in that state to everybody to be a gunslinger without any dire consequences whatsoever. And we have seen documents of how much fatalities have happened in that state because of this law. And yet, even with the Trayvon Martin case, even with the situation where a woman's now serving 22 years in prison for supposedly trying to protect themselves, you have a governor who I think is a bone idiot, who's only interested in himself and his interests of his other party, and not the interests of the people, basically said there's nothing wrong with the law, that the law is just fine. Even though documents proof that says there's something going on, you need to actually go and review this law. And that's the whole thing. He won't even review it. He thinks everything is perfect. But then again, it's the same guy who wants to take voter rights from people and actually sign a law because of his own lieutenant who got caught doing got caught or involved, if I may correct myself, in a situation where our own charity was shut down due to an internet gambling ring. He wants to pass a law to protect the people of that state, but just protect his own self and his own conspicuous, which resulted in loss of jobs and him having to deal with a lawsuit as well as basically now trying to explain how a law was so poorly worded that it banned all computers. This is your governor in Florida, guys, in case you're watching this. If you're in Florida, that's your governor, and that's how I'm looking at him. I'm looking at him as an idiot. That's all I can say. I don't get this guy. But then again, his approval rating has been pretty much down the dumps lately, and I seriously doubt he's going to be governor in the next few years. I don't know how who's going to replace him, but you know what? Anyone is better than him right now. That's how unlikable this guy is. Because to me, he really doesn't care for the people of Florida at all. And then Florida has a lot of issues that he's not even tackling, but he's dealing with other stuff that just. But in any case, in terms of the Trayvon Martin situation, yeah, I am disappointed. I am disappointed. I can't say I'm angry because I was expecting it, but it is goes to show that in terms of situations, that when something is not done the right way, stuff like this happen. When you pass laws like this without actually making sure in fine print what the law is contained to, what it's not contained to, you're going to have this situation. When you have cops who I think they are biased on against certain individuals who don't do their job and investigate, don't do their job in making sure collecting any evidence in the scene of crime, don't do their job even call the parents about what happened, you get this situation. And I'm hoping that the citizens of Florida, no matter what race they are, black, white, Hispanic, whatever, look at this, look at all the stuff that's been going on in Florida in terms of legislation, and actually ask themselves, are these guys who's running that state actually is doing it for the benefit of them? Because I don't see it. Maybe you guys feel I'm being harsh, and you may be right, and maybe it's just me, my ranting and anger is flowing through the screen. That's fine. That's why there's a comment session. You tell me what do you feel about this situation. You tell me exactly what you feel about the verdict on the situation, and what do you feel about the police as well as your politicians. Do you think they are just as much to blame as to what happened as Zimmerman himself? I'd like to hear your comment below. But to me, there's a whole chain of events that happened, and to me, no matter what the verdict was, I didn't felt there was going to be any winners. Again, I have to say one thing. I'm glad there wasn't no major riot. All right, I'm actually glad there wasn't no major riot. The police was preparing for that, and there are people protesting in the streets. There are people in an uproar, but it hasn't led to them burning down, buildings and raiding the place. So I give kudos to that because they really was expecting that to happen. Now let's get on to the other major topic, and I'm going to end it there on that. I'm just going to end it on this topic because it is joint at the hip, and why I am just getting sick and tired of hearing Florida politics right now. My original story before this broke was about the Florida's accidentally banning all computers in the state, and this is because of pretty much what has happened with Lieutenant Governor at the time, who was caught in a situation where her charity was pretty much closed down, and because she was involved in this charity, she was pretty much forced to resign because the charity was supposedly involved in a gambling ring. As a reaction to all the stuff that's happened, somebody thought it was a good idea to ban, slot machines and internet cafes because of what has happened. And the first time when I heard this, I heard it from Review Tech USA, which I just couldn't believe it. I said, is he serious? And keep in mind, the guy who does Review Tech USA is very, very good. I actually really enjoyed his video. He's pretty much like a gamer reporter as well as a Let's Player. He reports things while he plays the games that is on the screen. And excuse me. and he's very, very good at it. And when I saw this, I really I had to scratch my head. I said, no, they didn't do this. They're not that stupid to pass a law that was so broad that it basically hurts almost every company, corporate, small business, you name it, in Florida. It affects them all, including people who have personal computers. But apparently they did, and the article, which I have right in front of me, clearly states these followings. Florida accidentally bans all computers, smartphones, and the states through internet cafe ban. This was a lawsuit that was actually has been placed in front of some of the owners of that state. Here we have this nice Governor Rick Scott, um, and in that picture he said Rick Scott reportedly called the ban the right thing to do for our states. Really? You think people who lost their jobs because of thousands of internet cafes got closed immediately after this law was passed was the right thing to do? Even though the fact is that it was one of your people who got caught in a situation which embarrassed your office. I want you to keep that in mind there, guys. There were jobs lost in this. Him, along with his other boys who was in his circle, always preaching that they are job creators, just basically destroyed 1,000 cafes and hundreds of, and probably thousands of jobs in the process. Because no matter what happened, if they repealed the bill or the Supreme Court considered it unconstitutional, most of those jobs that was closed down may never reopen because they don't have the financial capital to reopen. So I just want to say congratulations on thinking that was the right thing to do. No, it was a terrible thing to do. Let me just read the article here, and I'll continue going on from this. When a Florida lawmaker recently voted to ban the all internet cafes, they worded the bill so poorly that they effectively outlawed every computer in the state, according to a recent lawsuit. In April, Florida Governor Rick Scott approved a ban on slot machines and internet cafes after a charity tied to Lieutenant Governor Jennifer Carroll was shut down on suspicion of being an internet gambling front, forcing Carroll, who has consulted with the charity, to resign. So it wasn't no rampant raid that was going on in the cafes. There wasn't no rampant raid that was going on in any other major stuff. This happened because, number one of their own being tied to a charity that she may or may not have been aware of. I'm gonna be fair. She may not have been aware of. There hasn't really been any further news or investigation that I heard of on this matter. Yes, I'm aware of this. This happened a few months ago. Yes, I have mentioned this and probably on a blog. But there hasn't really been much after she resigned. Once she resigned, it pretty much faded away. But apparently, these guys panicked and decided, you know what, to be on the safe side, so none of us will be caught in the hands of cookie jar. I'm going to ban it for everybody. We're going to ban internet cafe for everybody. Even though most people who use internet cafes don't gamble, they just basically do it because, number one, it's a nice, quiet place for them to get their work done. They can chat with someone online. They can actually get some typing done, check their emails. But no, that doesn't really matter. It's all about gambling. So let's ban all internet cafes. Which, by the way, since the bill has been passed, I'll start reading here. Florida's 1,000 internet cafes was shut down immediately, including Miami's Dad Incredible Investments LLC, a cafe that provides online services to immigrant workers. According to the Tampa Bay Times, this is what they has been said. One of the owners is now suing the state after her legal term found that the ban was so harshly worded that it can be applied to any computers or devices connected to the internet. According to the copy of the complaint obtained by the Miami Herald, the ban defines legal slot machines and any system or internet or devices that may be used in a game of chance. That's pretty much every computer that is in the world, because there's no possible way you can say that that a tablet, an iPhone, PC, a laptop, cannot connect to a service that provides, poker or slot machines of their own. All they need is a credit card and they're good to go. Good job, guys. Again, this is Florida's government at its best. And I'm just going to repeat what Rich Scott has said. Rich Scott said that this ban is the right thing to do for our state. Clearly, he hasn't read what was in that bill. This is your governor signing bills into law. This is your governor that represents you, the state of Florida. And by the way, this is the governor who just cost hundreds of jobs because he felt that internet cafes was a gambling ring and it's bad for people. Never mind the fact that it was the lieutenant governor who was involved in a situation like this, and technically speaking, it was her that they should be, questioning and not punishing every last internet cafe in Florida. But you know what? That didn't matter. This was the right thing to do. Oh God. The article continues, and the broad wording can be applied to any number of devices according to the Miami law firm, who work with the constitutional law attorneys at Harvard. Professor, this has some couple of names. I'm not going to go crazy and trying to pronounce them because they're very awkward names to pronounce, but I will leave a link to this article so you guys can check it out yourself. I always seem to do when I'm reading these things, so that way, guys, you didn't understand what I'm saying, at least you have something where I'm getting it from. The suit maintained that the ban was essentially passed in a frenzy fueled by distorted judgment in the wake of the scandal that includes Lieutenant Governor resignation, and declares it unconstitutional. It is unconstitutional, but you know what? Florida doesn't seem to care. This was the right thing to do, even though it costs hundreds of jobs. Or punish people who had nothing to do with what had happened, who Lieutenant Governor's Jennifer Carroll or the charity she was involved. No, it's internet cafes that's causing the problems. Did Rick Scott ever been to an internet cafe and know how an internet cafe actually work? But to him, this was the right thing to do. How out of touch can you really be, man? Seriously, how out of touch? The more I hear this guy, the more disgusted I am that he's actually Florida's governor. How did he get elected? I hope it wasn't being a job creator, because he just destroyed 1,000 cafes. And even if they do outlaw that, even if they do deem it unconstitutional and that law gets struck down, which I'm pretty sure it probably will, even though they have said they're going to try to work hard to fix it, which to me, damage has already been done, guys. Don't. Hold on. I'm just going to say this. If these guys ever do even grasp of running for election, and I know people in Florida, if you're looking at this, do me one favor. If they tell you that they are job creators and they want to help create jobs for your state, don't listen to that, because the evidence is in the wall. They just basically destroyed jobs right there. They're not trying to create jobs. Hell, they're not even trying to represent your state. They're not trying to represent you. This law was clearly to protect them. That's it. Now, I'm trying my best to keep my composure on this because, like I said, don't like to do too much ranting in the video. But this here, this article right here, I mean, seriously, guys. Did you not read anything? And that's the whole key here. They didn't even read what was read, was given to them. They just said, I'll sign everything, give me the bill, I'll sign it, don't worry about it, and done. These are the people you want to represent. They present a bill without actually reading it thoroughly. I was taught in school and in college before. We did actually a drill. We wrote something down. You know, we presented to the teacher, and the first thing she asked, "What wronged you with this idea?" And we tell them why we wronged the idea. And then she said, "Did you actually consider the consequences of what you have written? Did you actually think of the downsides of what may happen?" And she have asked us this for a reason because most of the time when we write something, or when these politicians write something, or when everybody trying to put something forward that may sound like a good idea, it may actually be more harmful than good. This is one of the reasons why I never supported SOPA or ACTA or any internet censorship bill that they was trying to throw out there, because I know perfectly damn well they didn't even read what was being presented to them. Everybody was jumping on it, said it's a good idea, it's going to help stop piracy from the internet, even though technically they have tough laws and restrictions on piracy on the internet already in play. So to have another law on top of that one didn't even make any sense, especially when all they can do is just reinforce the ones they got now. So why the hell have SOPA? Only to make it easier for their friends to actually, strict you from the internet, ban you from the internet, without even having a hearing or a trial or even anything that will to help defend you against false claims. But to them, it was just piracy, even though none of them read what was on that bill. It was only till the people actually spoke out, and when they said, "Well, we're gonna look into it." Well, you should look into it before you actually, presented the bill and trying to issue a pass notice. The same thing going with this woman in New Mexico. She claimed that she wanted to, have, a woman who was victim of a sexual assault present their baby as evidence in a sexual assault case, and if they did get an abortion, that's what it was, an anti-abortion bill, they can actually go to jail for up to 2 years. But to her, she says, we're just trying to help the victims, not hurt them. How is putting them in jail for 2 years helping them? And she actually confessed to herself, without actually saying it, that she didn't actually, make sure she checked what was being said, what she claimed she put on the bill. When reality is, one, she didn't wrote the bill, and two, she didn't read what was being put on the bill. But luckily they had a predominantly Democratic Senate there that is never going to see the light of day, and nor should it. But these are the people who represents these states, my state. These guys are always pushing for their own agenda, not thinking about the consequences of what they're trying to pass in office. Do you think Rick Scott realized the impact, the economical impact that he have just did by passing this bill? No. He doesn't care about the workers who worked in those cafes who lost their jobs now because of this stupid bill. Or how he pretty much passed a bill that pretty much hurts every corporation, every small business, or even every household who now, at least for the time being, have illegal equipment in their room. But to him, passing this bill was the right thing to do. Out of touch, irresponsible politics, irresponsible representatives who constantly do the same mistake over and over again. If you're going to present a bill, please, for at least do me that favor, read what is being said on the bill, not just take it for face value. Is that so hard to do? Since you're very much supportive of a bill and you're 100% on it, I'm going to assume that you at least read what was on it. And obviously, you didn't, because now that state is scrambling to fix the damage that bill has. Basically trying to word it carefully this time, so that way it don't affect the whole entire state in terms of having people having computers, or government, or corporations and business owners to run their businesses with their computers. I hope this gets. I'm seeing this going to to the Supreme Court, and they're actually going to look at this and say, "Oh, you're kidding me," and just strike it down. And again, this was not because they want to protect the people or this bill is for the people. It was for them. They panic, and this is the reaction they had in terms of the response of what they own got caught in, got caught up in. This is their reaction to it. This has nothing to do with protecting the state. So when he says this was the right thing to do for our state, all I gotta say is how. How is this actually helping your state? You just closed down 1,000 internet cafes. Hundreds of people are out of work. That's also hurting your economy. How's this helping? Do you even know what a cafe does? In terms of slot machines, there's a task force already that deals with that for those who have illegal slot machines in stores. Believe me, New York have done a very good job of making sure they stay out of the stores. I see a lot of raids in my time. So I know that it does exist. And it ain't the state that does it, it's the feds who comes in. This is Florida's politics. Rick Scott, man. You got a nice mug on this picture. And it tells me you have no clue what the hell you're doing. And every time I see your name, it shivers me. It really does. This was banning cafes is the right thing to do for your state. Even though the cafes had nothing to do for what your lieutenant governor got caught in the middle of. Guys, I'm done talking right now with this. I spent 36 minutes talking about two topics, but you know what? These are one of the top topics I wanted to talk about. I'm actually going to scratch the other one because it's not really that important, at least for what is going on right now. I had the Paula Deen situation. She has fired, pretty much our old squad of lawyers and representatives and councilmen, and they actually got a new team to help her, combat the damaging defamation that pretty much cost her a loss of sponsorships, pretty much hurt her image. So she's now hired a new fresh team to help her in terms of this lawsuit she's dealing with, as well as hopefully repair as much damage as possible. My initial feeling is I'm not surprised she made the move, and personally I would have done that. I would have done that months ago, especially after her team, our old team, didn't properly prepare her for the questions that the lawyer was going to ask her. Because every time I look at that defamation, I said, my God, this guy is not even trying. He just basically trapping her off, and she's kept falling right in there. And it made matters a whole lot worse. That was not a pleasant defamation when I read it. But hopefully that with this new team, she can actually stop the bleeding. I think that finally slowed down a little bit, and I'm kind of glad too, because there was a lot of heat going her way, and I do feel that some of it is unwarranted. Like I said, I didn't comment much on that other video that everybody said, how come you didn't comment on the she can't see her friend through that black background on that blackboard, because to be honest with you, she was talking to him, and if he's not mad about it, that's fine. I was more concerned of her ethics when it comes to running her business, and how she had to be professional at all times. And I think that because of the family member, who's, by the way, hasn't said much, her brother hasn't said anything, at least from what I've been seeing in terms of this whole thing, because she didn't really take disciplinary actions against him, and pretty much just ignored the warning signs that was thrown out there about what was going on in the workplace. That was my major concern. That was one of the things I felt that she was in trouble with more than the N-word that was used years ago. Yeah, I think people was disappointed, mad about it, but this idea that the N-word was the real reason, I wasn't buying. But now she has a team going, and we'll see what happens from then. I think it's going to finally slow down, and I think slowly but surely, I think she's going to get back on her feet. But for now, it's pretty much damage control. So that was one of the things I was talking about. I actually switched one of the reports. I have talked about the Microsoft and NSA situation, but the entertainment roundup. I made that switch because I think it's more on the entertainment side than on the actual what's news side. Even though Paula Deen is more of an entertainer because she is a cook. The subject matter alone pretty much persuaded me to stay on that side, but I can't get into too broad details. I think I spread enough of that brief detail over there. Um, I know people ask me about this, and I think I said it in the entertainment roundup, but I said it again. If the game is on, I'll probably watch it. But that's only if I'm forced to. I'm not big on All-Star games, guys. I'm sorry. I'm not that big on All-Star games. To me, it's just showing off some big guys' talent. I don't see it as competitive as it is. The last All-Star game, honestly, I actually found very entertaining, very fun to watch. Was in 1994, the NHL All-Star game. I actually found that very entertaining, even though they wasn't, aggressive. There was something about the way the Fox covered it and the way the game was. I actually enjoyed it a lot. I didn't like the glowing puck that they was doing. I thought that was kind of crazy, but that was it. But if it's on, I watch it. I am covering some events that's going on for just for random videos at the other channel. But that's pretty much it. So that's pretty much it, guys. That's my feeling on that. Again, there's two major stories I have. I will probably put the Paula Deen in because I actually did talk about it briefly. But the two stories I'm gonna talk about, I'm gonna leave articles down there, and you guys can comment on it. I do want to make one thing clear. I'm not bashing the citizens of Florida. I want to make that very clear because a lot of people are going to assume that I actually hate Florida because of the people. And that's not the case at all. I don't like what was going on with with politicians when they pass stupid laws without actually thinking things through. I don't like biased police work. I don't like things getting swept under the rug for the benefit of one person over the safety and concern of others. And I definitely don't like the fact that you have politicians who pass things without actually reading it through first and actually really having a debate of whether or not this will work. This is a classic case why we only need to have a balanced government and not just a one-sided government. That's for anyone, Democrat and Republicans. So this is where I'm coming from with this. It's not Florida that I'm not Florida citizens that I'm angry, I have beef with. I have a problem with Florida's representatives who clearly has their own interest at mind and not the interest of the people who they are supposed to serve and protect. And that's the thing that's where my anger is. Rick Scott to me he's just scum in my opinion. Okay, he is just scum, and what he have done in Florida in terms of passing a law that has nothing to do with the welfare and the safety and concerns of the Florida citizens, but pretty much covering his own friend's ass and his selfish for that matter, because someone in his office got caught in the middle of something. That alone pretty much sparked my anger between him. So keep that in mind. It's not Florida here. I don't go make my business to go find reports about what's going on in Florida, what wacky stuff going on in Florida. I know there's a lot of videos out there that a lot of people brings up about Florida, but to me that's not. I'm not one of them. This is the Trayvon Martin situation is a serious situation that can have repercussions towards the whole state. The same thing with what Rick Scott have done. Even though it was done in that state, other states can tend to follow through if they felt it was something they can enforce or something they felt that, yeah, internet cafe is a bad thing. We should ban them. Even though, technically speaking, half of those guys never went in the internet cafe or did work in the internet cafe, don't even know what the internet cafe is about, we should ban it anyway. This is the thing that bothers me. This is the thing that irks me the most, not the citizens. So keep that in mind, guys, when you post your comments. I'm not attacking you guys, but your representatives, I'm not feeling right now. I'm really not. You guys, again, I want to thank you guys for looking at the What's News. I'm sorry that I had to delay it, but like I said before, after what happened, I was forced to scrap that one and just do from here. So again, thank you very much for watching. I'm looking forward for your comments, and as always, be safe, and talk to you soon.